Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Marketing Show. I'm Kane Tapp. Over there is Ruthie Rocks, and this is show 240. Oh my God, 240 shows. Where do you find the time, Ruthie?
It's what I do. It's what I do. It's what I love. It's easy to do what you love.
So today we're going to get into the MLS stats, and after that we're going to have cybersecurity expert Jack Lindberg on. That's very exciting. I got some questions for him. I don't think people understand how easy it is for things to happen on the internet.
I know I have to put it in the middle. Sorry. There
That's
you go.
okay. I'm back.
Yeah, there's no easy way to do it.
There
So,
never is.
yeah. So Kane, here we
Yo.
go. And I have some really good news. So we are down to 3.1% July over July. So we're below 5%. We're below 4%. It's the first time since March 17th, when we were up 106% from last year. So we're only down 3.1%. So we're just three deals away every day between now and the end of the month from beating July's record for last year, and we'll be in the green, and I know we're going to do it. I just see it because I feel it. I do these stats all the time. We've got 6,697 listings, a few more than yesterday. We were down to 6,666 yesterday.
Ooh.
And yesterday we just listed 175 homes, which I love that number, because we're listing more than we're closing, which means our inventory isn't going to tank, at least not quickly. And we closed 153 deals yesterday. Congratulations to all you hardworking realtors out there. And then you put 94 under contract, which is awesome. Awesome. People are out there, they think they're working, but they're just moving. They're not making progress. But some people are doing it. They're listing and selling and taking people out. And being with the COVID-19 guidelines, it's not as easy as it used to be, but now it's becoming easier. It's becoming second nature. So
I guess this is the new normal they keep talking about.
Right, the new normal. And just pointing out to everybody, there's only 136 active homes, single family homes, between 300,000 and 310,000. And that's where your rent, your mortgage payment, your principal and interest is lower than rent. And I always like to remind everybody that if you've got buyers on the fence, that if you had an $18,000 check in your hand that they could cash next year, would they take it? Because the annual appreciation of a home is 6%. And if it's a $300,000 home, it's going to appreciate and add $18,000 to their net worth. And then after that, every year, that figure compounds because your value goes up. So the 6% compounds. And by the time 5 years is up, you've added over 100,000 to your net worth. And if you're renting a home, you've added 0 to your net worth when it comes to real estate. And I always want to invite everybody to tell your buyers and your sellers that, because hopefully they're going to buy another home as well. So Kane, real estate is coming back in a robust fashion. And Dr. Young, the chief economist for NAR, said we've got a V-shaped recovery. We went down and now we're going up. So he sees that by the end of the year, we will exceed 2019's data, so in a positive way. So that's wonderful news to start this weekend, this middle of July.
Yes, it is.
Another day in paradise, in this hot paradise. And today, what are we going to talk about, Kane? I'm going to
We're going to talk about the big scary in technology, cybersecurity, and we got expert Jack Lindberg. Is Jack with us? You got Jack?
Is with us, yes. I am going to bring him on. Good morning, Karen. It's good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Welcome, Jack.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So cybersecurity, everyone's there's a lot of rumors out there about what hackers can do. There's just lots of really bad things. You know, can they hack your webcam? Can they get your credit cards? Can they spoof your data? Can they steal your identity? There's so many bad things that we hear about, and I'm glad you're here today and you can tell us things that are going on.
Oh, it's yeah, like you said, it's kind of crazy. It's like having a vault full of money, and it's being secured by one of those tiny little locks, you know. Um, the average person's security is almost non-existent, and it's just the technology's moved so fast that people haven't been able to keep up. They've barely been able to keep up with, how do I push the button on here, whatever. And then there's the whole cybersecurity side and the backside. There's software vulnerabilities and there's behavioral vulnerabilities. So right now the criminals are ahead of the game, and they're taking advantage of especially certain industries like real estate. And so that's my job. My job is to get the real estate to strengthen their muscles a little bit in terms of behaviors and knowledge about how to protect themselves.
So a little bit about you. How long have you been in the cybersecurity game?
I just kind of made this up, and because I'm one of the only ones doing it, I've got guys like you calling me an expert.
I feel the same way
No.
when I do my classes.
Well, listen, we're considered techies, right? And no matter
Yeah.
what, it's pretty easy in this crowd. But seriously, um, always been on the tech side of real estate. I mean, when I got out of high school, I went to college for computer programming. I went to a vocational school for computer programming, and I actually dropped out before I finished because it was way too boring. But I got the gist of it. Back then it was COBOL and Fortran and Pascal and BASIC and those kind of languages, right? And I went to school for that enough to understand it, but then I got into real estate. I was in real estate when I was 20. But because of that background, I was always looking for ways to use technology in my real estate business. In fact, in 1994, Realtor magazine featured me. The NAR's magazine featured me as one of three techie agents in the country that everyone should try to be like. And back then, I had this little Mac laptop with a screen about this big and black and white. And I would slide it into a docking station, and it would fire up my laser printer, and I would connect on my 28.8 modem to AOL, and that was techie back in the early 90s. So I started with that, and then I took some time to build homes for a few years, but then I got back into the technology full time. I actually invented a concept called Agents Planet, which is like a portal for real estate, and started designing websites and went from there. So
Here you are.
Your story parallels a lot with Ruthie. She had that technology background before she even got into real estate. So she's always been very tech forward in everything she does as well.
But my
for
glasses
example,
aren't nearly as cool.
oh, sure, Jack. So for example, email security. Email fraud is very big in the real estate industry. One of the more popular scams, we should say, is the wire fraud scam. Now, what kind of things are out there to kind of help people and prevent that?
Well, it's the simplest thing is I believe in my determination that bad passwords are the number one cause. Because what happens is the biggest part of what happens in real estate is that the consumer that's in a transaction will get an email that looks like it's their realtors, or sometimes originally it was title companies and lenders. They would make it look like it's the title company's email. And they would send that email to the client saying, hey, that $50,000 you need to wire, you better wire it now, but the instructions have changed. So here's the new instructions, but hurry up and wire it or we won't close on time.
They create a sense of urgency.
Exactly. And so the people wouldn't take the time to call somebody to verify. They'd just hurry up and do it, right? And tons of money has been lost that way. I think Ruthie's got a figure in a minute here, but that was the first method. But the question I was asking when I was hearing these stories was, well, how do they know how much to ask for? And how do they know how to make it look believable? How do they know which title company or which agent they were going to mimic?
Yes.
That's the question.
So what I determined was it's somehow that they were breaking into or hacking into transaction management websites or title company websites that had weak passwords, because that's really a huge issue. I just downloaded a cybersecurity book that's only a couple years old. It's still teaching the 8-character number symbol password thing, which is what most people go by, and it's what most websites tell you to do still. Even like
Yeah.
Harvard and MIT still tell you, 8 characters number symbol, but that's not nearly good enough now. The criminals have come up with better techniques now, and we have to adjust to try to protect ourselves. So the biggest issue is passwords, but on the other side, it's behavioral. It's things like reacting to an email that looks believable, which allows criminals then to, if you open up an attachment, that'll sometimes install a software on your computer that might track your keystrokes, or it's spying on you or doing something, and so that happens sometimes, and that's how the criminals get their information. And so behaviors have to change. We have to teach the people how to recognize a phishing email and understand, not to click on unknown attachments and things like that.
And that's one of the biggest reasons why the fraudulent real estate transactions have increased 5,000%, is because they do find out what you're working on, and then they do create a spoof email, and they do send it to your buyer, and they do request to send X amount of dollars because now they've read your emails. Right, Jack? I mean, and that's what's really made the 5,000% increase in cybercrime. So it is that's why you say that passwords are one of the most important things to stop the hackers. And I totally agree with you. And I can't wait for the class on Monday, because you show us what they do, and it really resonates, and you show us how to create better passwords, which people will have to come to the class on Monday to find that out.
Oh yeah, it always shocks people for sure, that the password stuff.
It's amazing. We all, I mean, I hate to think, oh, my poor password. I think I'm up to 9 characters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll have
I
to
know.
talk about that.
Well, you've been in this business long enough, and I'm sure everybody can relate to this. We have so many passwords for so many different sites, and the NAR site, the GLVAR site, your email, your website, and on and on and on. And then you have to remember them, and then you have to change them all. And I know there's better ways to do it, and you're gonna tell us all that on Monday. But it's just, I mean, Kane has seen my password book, haven't you, Kane?
Did you say book?
Yes.
Book. And book is an understatement. We're like password novel at this point.
Like War and
and
Peace over there.
yeah, she doesn't want to go digital with it. So we just have this huge stack of papers that just has I think at this point, every real estate related service known to man with a username and a password, and not just real estate related stuff, but content and social media platforms. I mean, if it's out there, Ruthie's probably tried it and probably has an account for it. When we had to change Remax Central to her new brokerage, Love Las Vegas Realty, we were scrambling trying to find passwords for all these different sites that she logged in once 10, 15 years ago. And, we're trying different combinations, and we found some new passwords we didn't even know about.
Yeah. It's amazing. The more you're in the business, the more that's why this cybersecurity is such an important topic, and it's coming and it's really coming into its own, because I have that on the screen. The global cost of cybercrime is expected to reach 6 trillion annually by 2021. And Jimmy and I were talking about this yesterday, Jack. He goes, "You must mean billion." I said, "No, let me find a slide and let me show you." But that's globally. That's not the United States. The United States is 1/3 of the economy, so it's still a huge number, even if you're talking about the United States. And I'm sure, because we are so much into the internet, I mean, that's our life, that we're probably half that number. If I was a betting person.
Yeah, I agree. And I was just looking at some statistics from the FBI, and England is number 2, or the UK is number 2, but far behind the US. The US is by far the biggest area where cybercrime occurs. And when you talk about that $6 trillion number, at first it shocked me too, because I've seen other numbers that are related directly to how much the consumers lose. But then there's the flip side. If you're a business that gets hacked, then you have to go through the expense of the whole process, from determining how you got hacked, figuring out who was affected, notifying everybody who's affected,
Yeah.
doing all that process, and then you got to clean it up, fix it, and do all that. And it can be, for the average business, it can be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so,
Oh, easy.
yeah, so I think that that figure is talking about the cost of cybercrime, is including that. But that's something that realtors and brokers need to really be aware of, is if you're the cause, and say somebody gets hacked and they take you to court, it could be that you're held responsible for their cost to clean it up,
And
and that could
Jack,
be big.
you and I both know that NAR is this is one of their main topics this year, because they have actually come out with a department where the brokers can get cybersecurity insurance. And the minimum is $1,300 a year, and it's based on the number of agents that you have, and it can go up as much as 4,000 or 5,000 a year. Which I'm sure the brokers would have to pass on to the agents, because I know brokers don't make that much money. But anyway, or require the agents to get their own, because again, you've got to be insured against this, because otherwise you're going to be part of that 6 trillion.
It's like car insurance, sooner or later you're going to get hit. And so if you're not insured, it's going to cost you a lot of money. So you better be insured, because sooner or later someone's going to at least try to hack you. If you've got good practices, you might be able to ward them off. But yeah, it's insurance. Again, it's like car insurance. So you're crazy not to have it.
Yeah. And another piece of this puzzle I don't think we've touched on is people are a little loose with their info these days. It's almost shockingly so. When we have classes, without a doubt, one person will sign up multiple times with the same credit card, or they'll sign up and forget, and then they'll send like one of those little credit card disputes. They're like, well, what was this? And well, it's the class you took, and you have the certificate that we emailed you, and I have proof of this. And they're like, I don't remember that. And I sometimes wonder, well, if you don't remember giving me your credit card number and information, who else don't you remember giving your information to? Because you need very little information to process somebody's credit card. You don't even need their name now. You need the number, the expiration date, the code, and their zip code.
Zip code. Mm-hmm.
That you need 4 things in order to process a credit card nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I had a funny story about a student that took one of my classes back in February, and we charged the fee for the class, and then the next month the statement hit, and she didn't recognize it. So she disputed it, called it fraudulent. So then as I'm trying to reach out to her over a span of several days, I send documentation of her signing the in and out CE form, filling out an evaluation form with her signature, et cetera, et cetera. I send that all to the bank and say, this is the proof. She took a class, and here's the proof she was in the class. Well, I got a hold of her, and she's like, oh, I can't believe I totally blew that. Let me call my bank, and I'll tell them that I was wrong. So she does that. 3 months later, the dispute comes through. I still lose the dispute, even though she told the bank that she was wrong and I had documentation. So they charged me the money. So she's like, okay, let me just send you a check, right? So she sends me a check. About 2 weeks later, the bank comes back and says, oh, well, we got some information that she had undid the dispute, so here's your money back.
Oh.
So I called her and I said, can you believe this? She goes, you know what, just keep it. I don't want to deal with this anymore. So, a $25 fee turned into like $70 because of this. But it was crazy because the banks are clueless. They just, they have, like, the credit cards are just dead set to protect the consumers. And so there's a lot of protection with credit cards with consumers. And I think that's part of the reason why sometimes people are a little bit loose with their credit card information.
Yeah.
But you know what people are loose with now, Jack, is I can use Kane's credit card and nobody asks me for my identification. Nobody asks me. I mean, I can sign Kane's name.
Really? Can I get Kane's credit card too then?
But it's
Let me get my wallet.
No, but the point. I mean, I'm a woman. My name's not Kane, and so people the merchants don't care anymore. They're done. If you're using somebody else's credit card, that's not their problem. And I can remember when they took it more serious, that they didn't want you using someone else's credit card. They felt that they were protecting. It was their job to protect people. They don't feel that way anymore.
No.
Well, this was my first dispute in several hundred charges through my system here. And they told me there's a certain percentage they look for, and the one dispute brought me halfway there. with like at least I know several hundred transactions, one dispute brought me halfway to that threshold where they would start to look at me and say, maybe we ought to limit your ability to do charges because you've got too many fraudulent ones. So they do kind of hold the merchants accountable, but they let the consumers get away with murder, which is, again, what I found. I've had that happen a couple of times where they just dispute it without question. Oh, I'm going to dispute it. I think that's what they want. And I guess, in the end, if it prevents crime, the banks should know what they're doing on that. So if it prevents crime, then I guess that's the way it works.
What you'll find, Jack, is as you go on with your cyber designation and so on and so forth, and getting people's credit cards, is whatever provider you're using, once you establish with them that you are legitimate, they'll stop the dispute process at the consumer level.
Huh.
They may send you something and you just have to check a box and then they send it back, but they'll be more on your side as time goes on because they realize that you're a legitimate business. But in the beginning, it takes a few times, but they do figure it out that you're legitimate.
Yeah.
Got to earn my stripes, I guess.
Yes, you do.
Exactly.
I know we did, didn't we, Kane?
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did.
Yes, we
We've been
did.
doing this 10 years, Jack, taking people's information and encrypting it and so on and so forth. So yeah, we're very, very careful because we do not want to dispute that we lose.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so there's another side to that whole email thing. And in fact, originally, to continue my story about how I got to this point in terms of cybersecurity, after I created the real estate portal back in 1998, I started designing websites. In fact, what got me there was I was trying to have somebody design a website for me, and I paid him $1,000, and then he made like 3 pages and disappeared, which I've heard that story 1,000 times since from other people.
That's
I
the
think
typical life cycle of a development.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like everyone's got to go through that to get a final website someday. So anyway, while I was getting impatient waiting for him to come back around, I was in a Costco, and I saw, this was back in 98, I saw front page 98, design your own websites. I thought, I should get that and see what I think, see if I can do it myself. So that's how I got started was with front page 98, and eventually I evolved to Dreamweaver and got better at it. And then I hired a programmer who taught me a bunch of stuff. And anyway, bottom line is, years pass by, and then the crash happens here in Vegas and everywhere, 2008. So I lost a lot of my clients, and in real estate, a lot of real estate companies just went by the wayside. And I decided to write books. I thought, okay, everybody's been telling me I know a lot about the internet, I should write some books. So I started writing books on Facebook for real estate, LinkedIn for real estate, the Twitter Startup Guide. I took them to NAR and said, what do you think? And they said, oh yeah, we'll resell these for you. So they resold those books for me for 5 years online. And I traveled the country and taught at local associations and sold the books in person as well. And but a couple of years into that, as I'm getting people on Facebook and on LinkedIn, and hey, yeah, get your really good, very inexpensive audiences built, I started seeing some concerning things, like an article in Time magazine that talked about 2 guys at MIT, a couple of math whizzes, put together an algorithm that they could take your birth date and your hometown and figure out your social security number in as few as 10 tries.
Ooh.
Like, whoa, how's that happen? But then when you do the research and you figure out how the social security numbers are figured out, like the first 3 numbers are determined by the state you're from and all of that. So there's a methodology there that these math guys figured out. And I thought, well, that can't be good, because most everybody has their birth date in their hometown somewhere on Facebook or LinkedIn or something. So then I thought I should start warning people. And this was like 2011. So my next class I wrote for CE approval in Nevada was called The Risks and Rewards of the Internet. And I taught some of the cautionary things and then some of the beneficial things. And by 2013, I had come up with this idea for a designation, but I knew it was too early for the industry. They wouldn't be ready for it. So I sat on it. And then, a few years passed by, and then 2018, I decided to launch it and get it off the ground. So it's been a slow process, but it's definitely been needed because I know people's practices are way behind in general. I mean, I always joke that real estate is behind by 5 to 10 years, everybody else in technology. So, and part of it's just the way it is. The realtors are kind of independent contractors. It's on them to figure out all the issues out there in business, and it's a lot to try to handle. So most realtors should be a little bit more tied in with the National Association of Realtors and with the local boards to stay informed, especially on a subject like this. But a lot of them don't do that, so they're just out there.
That's our job now.
Yeah, exactly.
Ring the bell, Ruthie.
Ring the bell. Ring the bell.
So some of the things you're talking about is a person's digital footprint, because how do people find out people's hometowns and birthdays? Well, we tell Facebook all this information, where we've been, where we've lived, who we are, and even our emails and phone numbers. So with a little bit of research, and I think we saw this in your class last time, if you have somebody's name, you can find them pretty quickly. For example, I got a call on my phone and it wasn't one of my contacts. And one of my habits is I put the phone number into Google to see who just called me. And it turned out to be a coworker. And I clicked on a few links, and on one of the pages, I not only had her phone number and her name, I had her husband's phone number and his name and every place they lived for the past 30 years in like less than 3 minutes.
Yeah, and that I did the same thing. When I was deciding to launch this class, I first was checking NAR to see what they were teaching on the subject, and I saw a video made by the lead counsel for NAR that talked about if you get an email. It was really kind of consumer-facing video, but it was basically saying if you get an email that says your wire transfer instructions have changed, don't believe it. Call somebody first to verify, et cetera, et cetera. And again, I'm sitting there thinking, well, how'd they get the email? How do they know, who to send it to, how much to ask, and all the stuff you need to do to make it even semi-believable. But I also thought, I'm going to stalk her. I'm going to stalk this attorney. Let's see how good she is online. So I, of course, start with Facebook. That's like the gold mine for stalkers.
Yeah.
And I go through all the information there. And it took me a little bit because she wasn't that active on Facebook, but she did leave her cell phone number out there. So I Googled the number. And that's when I got to White Pages, and that gave me her entire address history. And as soon as I knew her current address, I Googled that. Well, she had just happened to buy it a few years previous. So guess what? It was still out there on Trulia and Zillow. So within 20 minutes, I had floor plans to her house, pictures of the entire inside. And then I had all of her family and kids and everything else, all those pictures from Facebook. So I had a pretty good profile of her within 30 minutes. And I called her and I said, okay, Jessica, I just want you to know, I'm the guy that wrote the books that NAR sold, so so-and-so knows me, blah, blah, blah. I just want to let you know that I just thought I'd do a little experiment with you, and I have this information on you, and it's going to freak you out, but I'm going to tell you. She goes, okay, go ahead. And I told her whole address history and all this stuff, and she's like, wow, how'd you do that? And I explained it to her, and she's like, that does kind of creep me out, she said, but I'm glad you told me. But, if I can do that with an NAR attorney, then what are the odds I can do it with a realtor who's purposely trying to be public to meet new clients and things.
Well, Jack, it's such an opportunity if agents take the course on Monday and then go on to get the designation with you, because this is information that will set them apart from most realtors, because they can share that with their clients. And I think that will really make a realtor stand out, because it is a big problem.
Yeah. And as you know, since you're in there helping me to write this document, we're creating that set of guidelines for the division.
Yeah.
Right. And, there's just certain things that just have to be better in the industry, and passwords is one. Speaking of email, a lot of people use Gmail because G Suite is so popular. And
free.
Yeah, and well, G Suite costs money, right? It's $5 a
It's
month or something.
yeah, it's $5.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
basically free. But the
right.
people that use the Gmail, they use the Hotmail. I'm surprised. I'm very surprised whenever someone gives me an AOL or a Rocket Mail address.
Well, like I
I'm
said,
like,
AOL in '93 was cutting edge.
yeah,
So, Jack, I've told you this in 1998 when we got a server for our agents to protect their information. We got our own email server, and it was through Outlook. And it was a requirement that they use the email address that we gave them because we had a great IT company that told us how hackable. At that time, it was Yahoo and Hotmail, I believe, and AOL, how hackable those things were. So, I mean, we've been into this. And then as time went on and Gmail came out, most agents refused, absolutely refused to use our email server. And you know what they were afraid of? That we were going to read their emails.
And guess what Google does?
Reads their
read your
emails.
email.
I mean, like
So
we got time to do that. We're trying to protect people, and we're getting it's coming backward. Back, they reversed engineered it on us, and it was like, no.
well, actually, that brings up an article that so 2018, I'm starting to teach my class, and later in 2018, an article comes out from NBC Bay Area, and it's called "They Failed to Protect My Money: Home Buyers Demand Answers and Accountability After Fraud," and it documents the cases of 3 different home buyers who were trying to buy homes, and their realtors were using Gmail, and the criminals found out about the transaction. And so, in one example, they show the real email is whatever the realtor's name was. We'll say Kane, your realtor at gmail.com, right? And then
Yeah,
they made the fake email was Kane, your realtor, but they took one of the R's out with the your realtor, right? They took one of the
yeah,
R's out. You don't even notice it when you first look at it.
Right.
And that was one example. So there's 3 examples in here. One couple lost 85,000, another one 89, and another one was 200 and some thousand. And what's interesting, there's a couple other points that come out of this article, because NBC interviewed, first of all, the incoming president for California Association of Realtors, and they said, well, we've talked to some agents that say, well, we want to use our Gmail because what if we change companies? What if we change companies and we're using the company or the brand email? Then we have to start over. And the incoming president, he's like, that's no excuse. I mean, you need to be professional here. And ultimately, you should have your own, domain anyway, your own vanity
Exactly.
email, ideally. So that was his response. And then they talked to the California acting commissioner of the Department of Real Estate, right, the division there. And they said, what do you think? He says, if I find out an agent is using Gmail and their client gets hacked because of it, we're going to investigate them for negligence.
Ooh,
So it's a
Ooh.
licensing issue.
yes. That's
In licensing law, and I talk about this in the class, there's a statute in NAR's Nevada's licensing that says you're responsible to protect your clients. And so if you're, getting hacked and your clients are getting hacked because you're getting hacked as an agent, you certainly could be held, fiscally responsible, if not even potentially lose your license. So
well, the duties owes says you have a responsibility to keep their information confidential. I mean, it's right
yeah,
there. The first document that your client signs says that you will keep their information confidential. And if you have an email that can be hacked, that's not doing the due diligence to keep their information confidential,
no,
just
it's
like you're
not.
saying.
yeah, and it's funny because everyone understands the concept. There are laws in place that say you need to take these files that you have on transactions and put them in a locked cabinet, and only limited people have access to it. That's all common sense in a physical way. They don't realize that all of this stuff is accessible through their computer online just with a hacker, and a couple of quick tricks. So
Yeah,
So here's something too that Jack, we can add to the class. When you become a realtor, they give you a password, and it is the first 6 letters of your first and last name. Now, let's say you're a realtor today, and in 2 months, 3 months, you become a criminal. You have the ability, because you can find out people's public IDs. That's
right.
the username and login. Now you have the ability to go in and get information just like we're saying, to find out what transactions they're doing. And once you get into their LVR site, and I mean, that has always baffled me. You know, why people just don't change those right away, and we can put that in our class too.
Well, okay, so the designation that we've talked about, it's the class that we're doing on Monday, and then when people sign up, I do what I call a white hat stalking report. I basically go online like a criminal would, and I look at their social media, and I say, hey, you might want to change the settings on this photo because it shows too much, or you might want to remove your birth date from your profile, whatever. I go through and I tell them all these things so they can clean that up. And then there's a second course online, which is a series of, I think it's 10 videos. And part of that is the Google. There's a whole part on Google and how to go into Google and change the settings and delete your information that you don't want Google to have. It talks all about all the ways that Google is spying on us. And I mean, the reason that they invented or created Chrome wasn't because they wanted to make a better browser. It's because they started by they had the search engine. People would do a search and they go, okay, we figured out some stuff about, why they're searching certain things. We know something about them. But then they go to the website and Google would lose the rest of the information. So they thought, well, wait a minute. We need to watch what they're doing while they're in those websites. Let's create a browser. And then, of course, they did the Gmail so they could read all the emails. And then Facebook comes along. And when Facebook came along and they had all the detailed profile stuff that people just give them, and then they're on there talking and conversing with people over different subjects, and Facebook is watching everything.
Yeah.
And pretty soon Facebook started getting all the better advertisers because they had more information. So then Google said, well, we've got to come up with some more ways to get information ourselves. Let's see. How about if we create Google Docs and then you put all your docs in here, we can read those. And let's see, let's do Google Maps and we'll drive around the country and we'll tap into every Wi-Fi we can. I mean, they just went crazy.
Chromebooks. They made their own computer.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there's just, and then the Android phones,
Yeah.
And so they've got that. And of course, the Android phones and the iPhones are listening to us all the time. That's another issue. But bottom line is both Facebook and Google are part of a business model they call surveillance capitalism. And there's a movie which I recommend people watch.
The Creepy Line.
Called The Creepy Line. And that movie will creep you out because when you see exactly how deep they go and how far they go, like Alexa in your house. Are you kidding me?
They're listening.
Who would have that in their house? It's bad enough when you're talking near your phone and Siri interrupts you and says, what was that? I'm searching for it. It's like, what? You were listening to me just then?
Jack, most new homes that are sold come with the home Alexa or.
I know Lennar's doing that, right?
Well, a lot of builders are, because my Alexa just went off. So just let me go back just a minute to one of the things that you were saying. When you are emailing or talking on the phone or using Alexa, whatever you're doing, there's 800 words that are keywords that will cause your data to be extracted and listened to by the government. Do you know what those 800 words are? And if you don't, could we get a copy probably from somewhere, do you think? Maybe not.
I'm sure there's a way to come up with somewhat of a list. It doesn't sound like the type of list. I mean, I know there's something out there. I mean, it started way back with carnivore, but we know that words like Allah and bomb and things like that are definitely going to be on this list. And whether we feel that's racist or not, it's another issue. The government's doing their statistics and they say, okay, these are the words that we have to listen for to try to find the people that are going to do stuff. So I don't know. I mean, I could look around to see if there's an actual list.
Well, there is, but I just don't know if we could have access to it.
Right.
Because
I can call the NSA and say, hey,
tell us what you're listening for.
Can I just get connected to your computers and see what you got?
I used to jokingly tell John years and years ago that there was a camera and microphone in every smoke detector. And the funny thing is, that's where detectives and other people will put those items.
Yeah, you've been watching some movies, haven't you? Kate, what were you going to say about that?
Yeah.
this kind of goes back to the Alexa thing. Not only the installing the Alexas, they're kind of hardwiring them into the house. So it's not like the dot or anything. It's like a panel on the wall. And they're also hooking them up to cameras. So they not only can hear what you're saying, they can see what you're doing.
And by the way, this has been a trick they started with smart TVs. Smart TVs are listening too.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the hard part. With all the research I've done on this, it's really difficult to know what I know. If I taught people everything that I've heard about in terms of all of these things out there, I think people just throw their heads up and say, "What's the use?" But there are things you can do to make yourself better and mitigate it. So it is worth the effort to try to get better at this. But there are so many things out there, and the thing is that these people at Facebook and Google, they know the technology like no one else, right? And so our government isn't equipped, the senators and Congress and all that, they're not equipped to police this because they don't even know what's going on. When Mark Zuckerberg did his Facebook hearings, they were asking questions. I'm thinking, first of all, that question didn't make sense, but that other question doesn't sound like it was written by Ted Cruz. I think one of his 25-year-old interns wrote that question.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it is that they are just so far down a path that no one else is there.
Let's give everybody a really big tip today if you're listening. If you have a Facebook account and you use an email address as your username, do not use an email address that anybody knows. Yes. Because if they know your username, believe me, they can hack your password, and you'll see that once you take our class. But use an email address that nobody knows, because if they can hack into it, first of all, they can Facebook will shut it down if there's too many tries at your password. But if they're lucky enough to figure that out because you've used your birthday and your dog's name, right? If they're lucky enough to figure it out, because we don't use the best passwords, then they have access to all your friends and they can hack in there. And I mean, my email's been hacked, my Facebook has been hacked, and they do it, and it's not fun as it came.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it really isn't. And it's just like you said, if someone gets your email, and for a lot of systems, an email is also a username. So they have 50% of the puzzle right there just when you send them an email. And it's real easy to get emails. We give them out all the time. Not only that, sometimes people get an email that says important attachment, and then they open it up, and then all of a sudden, everyone in their address book just got sent that same email with the email worms and all that stuff.
Exactly. And Jack, remember the other day when you shared the Google Docs with me, and you said, "Who's that person?"
Yep.
Well, that's my alias, because I don't want anybody.
All right, I won't mention it on live TV.
Yeah, we're not going to mention it, right?
Well,
because I have an alias email that I use that nobody has or knows, not even Kane.
Well, and that's a cybersecurity issue, by the way. Is we should never have an email address as a username, but a lot of sites require that.
Or your phone number. Everybody knows that too.
You should have a unique username that's unique, just like a password. But a lot of sites haven't figured that out yet. And so they're still doing that. But you mentioned unique domain name or unique email. That's another benefit of getting your own domain name. What I tell all people in business is get your business name or your personal name.com if you can. Like I've got jacklindberg.com. And then I can make any email I want after that, and as many as I want. So I've got Jack at Jack Lindberg, but I could make login at Jack Lindberg, and I'd remember that as my username, but other people probably wouldn't know that exists, right?
Right.
Exactly.
So that's one of the issues. The passwords, the problem, I think people are thinking right now, because you mentioned trying to remember all your passwords, writing them down in a book, and really the bottom line is what they're going to learn in the class is a much easier way to have way better passwords and to be able to manage them without having to worry about remembering them. That's the whole trick. We have to get to that point, and there is a way to do that we're going to cover, and that's a huge step forward in terms of making better passwords and making everything safer.
Well, I'm really looking forward to the class, and I'm really looking
Me
forward
too.
to having and we're going to do this every month, everybody, and then you can have the opportunity to get your designation, and you can have the opportunity to share this with all your clients and your friends and your family, and be above the crowd, because it's going to set you up there when you come out with some of these things you're going to learn. It'll amaze people, and it'll get their attention, which is what you want to do, and then share and help them.
Did you really just use an old slogan?
Which one?
Above the crowd.
Yes, that's an old slogan.
I
That's
know
the
it,
old
'cause I
that's
was
the
there
old
too.
Remax.
I was
Yeah.
at Remax in 1991. So
Yeah.
when
That's
NAR did that article on me, I was at Remax. So,
yeah.
but yeah, the whole designation thing, another benefit of that is when you sit down with your sellers, you can assure them that you've had extra training on the subject. So you're going
Yes.
to be less likely to be a hacking victim that makes them a victim. So
Right.
it's definitely a benefit to sell to your clients.
Absolutely. And then you can tell them what they can do to help protect themselves. So thank you, Jack, so much. And Kane, I'm going to hide this and just tell everybody that I'll be on tomorrow morning at 9:00.
Oh wait, there's a bee up here.
There's a bee.
There's a bee on you, Jack. He's going to sting you.
Yes, he's going to get stung. So anyway, tomorrow morning at 9:00 on my personal page, I do some things about motivation, sometimes spiritual, and I have a suggestion for everybody tonight to get ready for tomorrow morning. Tonight, if you take off your shoes or your running shoes or your slippers, put them way underneath the bed. So tomorrow morning when you get up, you have to kneel down. And when you kneel down to pick those up, thank God for all the good things he's done for you in your life, and all the friends and all the people that have helped you get where you are. So that's just a little tip for being grateful and thanking God for all the good things that we have. So thank you. Karen says that we gave her great information today. Thank you for watching, Karen. I know there's other people watching. They didn't comment. Love you all. See you tomorrow.